Here we go. It says it's
Okay.
setting up our meeting, but really it's live.
Is that what there's always this little lapse?
Yeah. It says it's live. Okay, and I see us. Fantastic. Okay, that volume's all the way down. Now it's volume's all the way down. Okay, great.
Awesome.
Let's get it started. Greetings, greetings. Come on in. Um, I am here today with the wonderful April Seals partner. My name is Dr. Giovanni Washington, and welcome to this month's edition of Black Goddess Within, the Black Goddess Lives. Sorry, the Black Goddess Lives. And today we're going to be talking about tending the goddess within. We are inspired today by Asasaya, who is right here. She's the Earth Mother Goddess. We'll talk about her in a moment. But first, let me introduce my guest today. April Seal's partner is a transformational life a transformational life coach who helps high performing women to find their center, regulate their nervous systems, and optimize their brain health so they can sustain their career, have more harmony in their life, and thrive. I love that, from survival to thrival. And today an elder put us together, thought we should meet, and we met, and then we thought we should have this conversation publicly. So here we are in the fourth month of the year, the beginning of the second quarter, and it's almost Christmas already, and we have not rested yet. So I'm hoping that we can dig in and that you can share with us today some ways to really sink in and like just be surrounded, wrap ourselves in a warm embrace of love and rest. And I always like to start out by asking my guest what goddess means to you.
Mm, nice. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. And I have to say thank you to Elder Harriet for the introduction. If she's
Thank you, Elder Harriet.
we appreciate you. And so, yes, I'm super excited to talk all things rest and self-care. It is such an important part now of my life and of my business as well. And so, yeah, this is exciting to share. For me, goddess just means different things, but I like to think of the interior landscape,
Mm,
right?
mm,
How do I tend to that? Because she lives within. She lives
okay.
within that landscape. It's also just tapping into that divine wisdom that's inside of all of us, right? Which you can usually only hear in stillness, and so hence rest, right? And why it's so important. So yeah, I think that's what that means to me. And I love I'm such a huge fan, first of the deck, but I love the idea of asaseya, just because of this idea of cultivating that landscape, that inner self-care,
Yeah.
she's the perfect goddess for today. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. One of the things that one of our, I guess, core values right here, in the Black Goddess world is decolonization.
Mm.
And I think that in my ancestral research, what I've learned is that like my great grandparents or my great great grandparents, they were all farmers.
Mm.
They all had relationships with the land
Mhm.
that as an urban dweller, a contemporary urban dweller, I don't have.
Mm.
Right. And so it's the remembrance, the reconnection to the land. I'm reminded that the way that I treat myself is the way that I'm going to treat the earth. And I think that a Sasaya, whose symbol is Mother Earth, whose symbol is the earth, reminds us that the way that we treat the earth is also the way that we're going to treat ourselves. And the mind that created, I mean, this is maybe a big place to start, but like the mind that created slavery is the same mind that created the destruction of the earth, right? That these things are not separate. And so I think some of the most revolutionary work that we can do is actually to work on ourselves and to tend to our, like you said, our inner land. I love this phrase, inner landscape. Asasaya is worshipped in the fields.
Yeah.
She didn't have a temple. Her temple was actually the fields. And I kind of like this part about her for a couple of reasons. There's a Sasaya and then a Sasaya Fua. So she was worshipped on a Friday and a Thursday, depending on where you were. She had two different names that indicated which day that she was going to be worshipped on. So when the Christianity, when the I don't know who they were, but whenever the colonizers who were Christian came to Christianize and to convert people, they actually had a really hard time with these particular populations because they didn't worship in a house, a house of worship. They worshiped her in the land, and they didn't have a particular day. So I feel like inherent in her existence is this spirit of resistance, but that's also steeped in cultivation and the cultivation of rest.
I love that.
So I like to just, that's a little bit about Asase. She makes me think about things in a very different way. And I guess the first question I could ask you is, uh, how do you like how did you I guess maybe tell me a little bit about your story. How did you come to
Mm,
learn that you needed to tend to this part of your life, to tend to your inner landscape?
wow. Yeah, because this has been like a lifetime. you know, I mean, it's actually so funny that you said that about cultivating the land. That was literally the first job I had.
Mm,
And when I was 15, I worked in San Francisco on a farmland, and I had to cultivate, like I had to dig, put vegetables and fruits, and it was such a labor intensive job. It was my first one. And I just remember my first week, all of that digging and like, I got in the bathtub because everything hurt and I
mm-hmm.
was sore. And it was just like, I remember thinking, this is what it means to have a job. It's
Mm,
hard work, it's labor. And that idea stuck with me as I grew up, like this idea of I'm not working 5 jobs,
right.
in school, I'm not really working hard.
And if I'm
And
not
so,
hurting, if my
right,
body isn't
it's
hurting.
literally, if I'm,
Yeah,
then I can do more.
that's
And
wild.
so,
I mean, that's a setup, right? That was a setup.
Jane, I'm already like, what? I didn't even give myself a chance. So it's just this idea of, um, where was I going to go with that? I wanted just to mention like, this is lifelong, right? The idea that rest is the reward started early for me. So it wasn't until 2020, actually 2019, when I owned my own coffee shop, and I was doing the work of like 3 or 4 different people. I didn't have a manager, so I was manager, I was operator, I was also barista, I was everything.
Mm,
And I started feeling the burnout.
yeah.
Like, you think, well, I have my own business. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, that can't be right. And you just push those things down. But no, it was growing. It was growing. It wasn't until 2020, when the pandemic shut everything down, I closed the coffee shop just for the few months that we were all on, lockdown. And that's when it hit me. Rest is not the reward, it's the requirements.
It's a requirement. 100%.
I didn't know until I actually had a chance to literally be forced to sit still.
Yeah.
And it was during that time that I cultivated my mindfulness practice, and I took a breath work certification, and just wanted to really dig deeper, so that when I opened my shop again, I had better tools to be better. And then I ended up selling it, and now I just do this full time as I love it so much.
I mean, it's fascinating to me that I'm going to go ahead and say it, as grown ass women, we don't know that we need to rest.
I
Like, why is this an epiphany in the 40s, or the 30s, however old you are? Like, why is it so late in life that we've had this epiphany?
you know what, like you said, like just this society we live in, this patriarchy that celebrates this go go go, like you're a machine, you don't stop. And when you're kind of indoctrinated into that, you don't know any better. So we
Yeah.
didn't do anything wrong, we just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And it takes someone to wake you up and say stop. But it doesn't feel good, right, when you do stop, because you've been so used to going and going. So it's going to just take some time. This is where nervous system regulation really comes in, where you can start to gradually get there. It's not going to be immediate. It took me some time. It took me a few months to feel good about sitting on the couch. What?
Yesterday, I did nothing. I mean, I did my hair, but I did nothing for about 6 hours, because I dropped Sterling off at camp, our volleyball practice, and I was gonna work in my car or go to the coffee shop and work. I'm still a little sketchy about being inside places, so I was like, I'll just sit in my car. And I was like, you know what? I'm actually exhausted, which is why I haven't pulled up my computer for the last 45 minutes. And so I'm just gonna sit here. And it was just, but the drama, you know what I'm saying? Like the act of Congress that it took for me to just say,
Yeah.
it's okay to do nothing for an hour and a half. Like it's okay. You
Yeah.
know, and maybe that's part of the mindset shift that needs to happen. It's not doing nothing. Like you're actually resting and recharging, which is something.
Yeah. And
You know?
you're right. You're absolutely right. And that, again, this idea of cultivating the, the inner landscape, that includes the mind, that includes the mindset around it. So, there's thought management that has to be done around like, this whole piece. And believing that it truly is like my creativity, my focus, my, decision making are impaired if I don't rest,
Yeah.
right? It's like, so calculating those, that part of the equation. How do I want to show up today? Do I want to show up in my full power, in my full potential, or do I, want to come half? This, I don't know where I get the fist, but it's this idea of do I want just want to be balled up in this fist and this is what the world gets, or am I expansive and I'm like I'm all here, and you have full access to this, right? So yeah, that takes time to develop though.
It does take time, and I think this it goes back to one of the other lessons around. I don't know if it's around rest necessarily, but I think around the act of decolonizing all of those behaviors and all of those expectations that we have adopted and internalized is this sort of act of forgiveness, you know, and being gentle with yourself. And I hear people say it, and I used to say it to my kid when he was a toddler, be gentle, be gentle. But I think it's something that it needs to become a part of our everyday language. You know,
Right.
like give yourself grace, give yourself time. You can try again
Absolutely.
in an hour. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, you can. I think that, like you said, it's a lifelong process, and
Yeah.
and here's another maybe a big jump, but I don't think we're just, I talked about, being 30 or 40 and finally having this epiphany, but really what we're reenacting, what we're performing every day is all of this ancestral stuff,
Whew.
right? And so this isn't just something, we're not just undoing a few decades, we're undoing a few centuries
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
harm and programming, of harmful programming, I guess is how we can say it. And so
Absolutely.
I would love to know, you talk about, I don't want to say it wrong, but your 7 stages of rest?
Okay. Okay.
Stages?
Yeah. The seven layers. Yeah.
Layers, layers. Okay, I knew those words weren't right. All right.
Well, look, actually, I want to talk about that, but I want to go back to something you just said, which I think is so important to note. It's this idea of there's literally only one you. Like there will never be another Dr. Giavanni to walk this earth again. So how do you treat something that is one of a kind
Oh, I
and
love that.
precious? Like you neglect it? Do you just ignore it? Like no, right? And so that's how we almost have to be with ourselves. That's what I tell my son. There will never be a Christian partner ever again. How can you treat yourself like you're precious? So I just, when you mentioned that, I think that could be something that instilled.
I'm really curious. How old is your son?
He's 9.
And what is his response when you encourage that thinking? What does he say?
He's like, yeah, I'm a gift. You're right.
Oh, see? They
That's,
got it. Why can't we get it?
you guys like, really? I wish my mom told me that. I wish my mom told me I was a gift.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that. You are the gift. You are the gift. I'm just checking to see if we've got comments. I think there might be some comments. Hold on a second. Let's see. Maybe not. Oh no, I think it went away. Facebook, the back end of Facebook still confuses me, but I'm gonna figure it out. So okay. So wait, we were going to talk about your 7 layers of rest. Can you talk about the 7 layers of rest? I told you, in our email exchange that this is so salient for me because when I start the goddess, meet the goddess within, which is a 6-week sort of deep dive into the goddesses, the black goddesses, the first sacred suggestion we make is actually to, there's 3 things I do for sleep, which is do a little tidy of your room, keep your
Hmm.
electronics outside, and go to bed just a little bit earlier. Just a little bit earlier. And when I tell you, it is the most difficult thing for me to do.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's so life changing.
No, I mean there are 3 simple steps, and it's not just me like over but I think the benefit is exponential. So like when you do, even one of those things makes a difference in your sleeping and therefore your rest. I know there are many ways to get rest, not only sleep, but I'm curious about your 7 layers of rest.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, first you just you say something and it just sparks something. So if it's okay,
Keep going, yeah.
this real quick. This idea, like we are the Lear jets of our lives. We are flying high all day, and then we don't know how to land at night. So that's why it's
Great.
so hard.
That's great.
Want to, mention that. And so one of the things I like to talk about a lot is this idea of like downshift. Like we need to downshift at night or before night. We're not even in the right circadian rhythm. Oftentimes we're still working at 10 o'clock at night, and so we don't ever shut down. But this idea of like get your body and your brain in the mood for bed. And so yeah, like you said, turning off the electronics or putting on essential oils or lighting like I have a ritual. Like I have different candles at night that okay, night is this, and when I light it, that scent is a cue. Oh,
right, downshift. Downshift.
Yeah. So
I feel like you might want to explain what downshifting means for those of us who have never driven a stick shift.
Oh, girl, I'm talking like
I've driven a stick shift, but other people may not know they may not understand what that means.
Gotcha. That's good. No, that's awesome. So it's basically coming down. It's like if I was landing a plane, I don't just drop, right? I slowly descend. And so you're descending into night, you're descending into rest. And so that looks like, first, one of the things I love to do in addition to lighting a candle, but just get the ideas that are floating around out of the head onto the page, because you'll end up in bed thinking, right, and ruminating, because that's what your brain wants to do, wants to solve the problem. So it's like, well, get it out and then look at it, and it's like, okay, what went well today? What didn't go well? Ooh, what do I look forward to tomorrow? What made me smile? That's a tricky one. And that one like opens up a whole can of worms. Like, did I smile today? And why I don't have no fun in my life? I got to think about that. So it's just allowing your brain to have the opportunity to think, so it doesn't do it when you get in the bed.
I love it. I love that. Is that one of the layers of rest?
Oh, okay. So let me
or is that just something else? No, this is all great. I just want to be clear. Yeah.
So, and I have to give credit to Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith, who wrote the book Sacred Rest. And in Sacred Rest, she talks about 7 types of rest. And I just adopted it. I loved it so much and created my own resting menu. And so that's what I want to talk about, what that looks like. There are several types of or different ways of resting. It's not just passive, like I'm just going to lay here, right? That's rest. But before you even get to sleep and naps, your mind has to be well rested, right? What does that look like? So in the resting menu, I start off with recognizing your physical sensations. So that means because rest can also be active, right? It's not just laying down, it's active. Have I been sitting too long? Are my knees stiff? Okay, I'm going to get up and stretch, right? Anything that brings circulation to the body or eases tension can be considered physical rest. Have my eyes been staring at the screen all day? I'm going to go ahead and pull back. I'm going to look somewhere else. I'm going to, whatever I need to do brings rest to the body, physical rest. So that's one component. There's also emotional rest. So when you start to think about emotional blocks, like what am I holding in? How am I not honoring my current truth? Am I really sad, but I'm acting it off like I'm it's all good, but I'm really just pushing it down, because all of that tends to stay in the body. And so give emotional rest by expressing the emotion, releasing the emotion. Oftentimes we just need to process and release. Have a cry, scream at the wall. What do you need to do? Do it. That brings emotional rest, right? The next part of that is the mind, the mental chatter, slowing down the mental chatter. And that is where we can use meditation, right? Or that is where we do journaling. Or my personal favorite is yoga nidra, which is, systemized relaxation through the whole body, but certainly brings mental rest. The next part of that would be tuning in. This is where goddesses come in, tuning in and listening to the divine wisdom within.
Ashe.
So that gives you spiritual rest. When you believe in a higher power, whether it's God or whatever you believe in, you feel peace and you feel protection from like that power, right? And accessing the wisdom that's there. And so that's how you get spiritual rest. There's ah, inviting childlike wonder. How our
Mm.
kids love to play and they're in awe, or when you're at peace because you're in the mountains and you're enjoying the nature, like that brings creative rest, giving ourselves an opportunity to like enjoy beauty and splendor. It could be through artwork, it could be music, it could be like just coloring, whatever, right? That gives you creative rest. um the next one is nourishing relationships. So if we find solace in others. I mean, we're built like that to be social beings. We love to connect. So allowing, if you're having a heavy burden, allowing yourself to connect to someone else who can help you with that. That's giving social rest. Something about being deeply seen and heard,
Ashe.
right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and certainly face to face too. Obviously, Zoom is okay, we do it, but face to face is really where it's at. So I would say if you can, that social rest, it's really good. Actually, there's a statistic on that. What is it? Uh, Oh, yes, when we get to sensory rest. So that's getting into giving your senses a break. This is the seventh layer, giving your senses a break. So that means, like I said, if you're staring at the screen all day, your eyes are tired, close them. Give one sense just a chance to rejuvenate. If you
Yeah.
listen to music on the way to work all the time, turn off the radio and just have silence so your ears don't have to process so much. But one layer of senses that is underused is touch. And so it's this idea that we need 4 hugs for survival, 8 hugs for maintenance, and 12 hugs to thrive.
A
So
day.
a day, friend. So a lot of us are walking around with already deficits in the sensory area, right? So yeah, when you think about that, it's just how can you bring any one of those levels into your day? And then it becomes, I'm not waiting for self-care Saturday. I don't have to wait,
Right.
to get my mani and my pedi, and that's my no. I can do any one of these. I can do sensory rest. I can find a friend and talk. I can, take your pick. And I can do this daily. So I'm investing in myself daily. I'm not waiting to one day.
So I heard this great thing about fitness once from a trainer. She said, it's not a savings account. You have to make deposits every day.
Yeah,
You can't like if you stop depositing, you no longer get the benefit.
that's
You have to
it.
deposit every day. I also am when you said layers, my brain immediately went to steps. Like okay, layer one, layer two, layer three, level four. But that's not what I'm hearing you say at all. What I'm hearing you say is you have choices. You have a menu that you can choose from. So choose from it daily.
Menu. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I say layers because it just feels like it's so rich, right? Like this, I think of lush layers of all that. Like that's
I
how
thought
rich
of
the
cake.
rest is. Yeah, cake. Like I get this all great, no matter how I go in it. And so that is what it is. And it's funny that you mentioned about the savings account. That's what this is. Stress is happening every day, like
Right.
all day. Right, and so it's deposit. I mean, we're withdrawing every day, and then we're waiting to Saturday to deposit. No.
Like now, we need it now.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh goodness.
so true.
I'm just texting my husband to ask him to bring me my charger because I need it.
Oh, okay. Come on,
That's why I'm looking down at my phone.
it's all good.
Um, I guess if I was paying more attention to the layers, I would have noticed that my battery life was not so much, and it's
Gotcha.
usually here, but it's not here right now.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
So this is fascinating to me, and it's really interesting. As you were talking, like I know that you're having a retreat coming up,
Mhm.
and as you were talking about the 7 layers of rest, I was like, I think I want to be in the beach in Mexico with April, and I'm not just saying that. Like I really actually had that feeling. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your retreat, what it is, how they can contact you, and then we can continue talking. But since it's very much in my body, I'm just wondering if we can share a little bit about it with us.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity too. And that's what I want to cultivate. I want the idea of like, you're coming to just, I don't want to say exhale because it feels so cliche, but you really are. Like, drop the baggage, literally and figuratively, all of that. Just drop it and rest. And yes, we will be cycling through all the different layers of rest. We're going to have, first of all, let me explain. Sorry, guys. It's July 14th through July 18th, right? So it's coming up this summer. It is in Tulum, Mexico, which is the beautiful jungle meets the sea. I chose that location, perfect for unplugging. The retreat is called Goddess Unplugged, and that's what we're going to do. It's, I mean, literally, there's no Wi-Fi in the rooms
Oh
because they're
wow.
meant to unplug. That's why you're here, right? So, and in addition to just this beautiful location, it's all-inclusive resort. So once you get there, you do nothing but enjoy the food and beverage. You don't even bring your wallet. You don't have to because everything is taken care of. And we're going to have some really good, I'm really excited about the workshops. We're going to be covering burnout. We'll be talking about, and we'll be doing inner child healing, which oftentimes is the reason why we can't rest, right? What was going on in the childhood that just, made you hyper vigilant. So we'll be doing that. We're going to have a goddess ceremony, actually. I'm going to have like this amazing artist come out and help us build floral crowns. And then we're going to have our
Oh,
own photo shoot. So I'm
I
so
love it.
excited. So yeah, there's so much in store during that time. But the most important thing is you will leave with tools and understanding how to bring all of these levels really of rest into your daily life. So you don't just have fun and then it's like back to the grind. It's like you should
Right.
not be the same, right,
Right.
when you return back home. So
It sounds like you're learning and learning how to
yeah,
integrate it into your life in the afterglow after the event.
yeah,
This is really important, I think, about workshops and things. Of course, through my lens, everything is an initiation. So when you get on the plane to go to Tulum to go to your retreat, this is you entering an initiation where you're then going to be basically like in training, except not training, a restful training. You know, you're
mm,
developing the knowledge, the skills, and the wisdom that you need to come back into your life with and be able to activate those skills so that you can be more effective. And I forgot we were more centered and to thrive.
mm,
And I think it's such an important. I mean, I know that we bandy the term ancestral intergenerational
mm,
trauma around a lot. And I mean, the reality is we all have it, right? Every single person in the world has it.
yeah,
And some of us more than others, but we all have it. And if we can take the time, and you're not even talking, you're talking about like childhood, right? But if you can undo the childhood thing, you're also healing the lines. So
absolutely.
I think the work that you're doing is super important. I think it's super complementary to the work that I do, and I'm really really happy that we're having this conversation, and I'm excited. You're going to give me the link. I'll put the link to her
Yeah.
retreat into the description. And I had one more question for you, and it's in my notes. Hold on.
Okay, great.
Great.
And
Um,
and actually, while you're looking for your question too, just I'll give you a link also to the Radiant Rest workbook. I created a whole workbook just to go through those different rest
I
types because I
love
know
it.
not everybody might have been taking notes. So
I love
yeah,
it.
if you're gonna grab that link, you'll get the work.
I'm gonna try to drop it. Let's see. I'm a little bit afraid to. I'm gonna click on the comment and hope that it doesn't. Yeah, it's
Okay.
not. I don't know what happened to the page where I could the back end. So anyway, I will put everything in there though. We'll put everything in there.
Okay.
If you, I mean, I know that you're sharing the workbook and you shared the 7 layers of rest. If there was, I have people come to me all the time and with a range of sort of challenges,
Hmm.
and like I'm sure you do too. And so my question to you would be, in the realm of rest, like what is the first step that someone who is very unpracticed with resting, like what is the first step or something accessible that someone could do to start their rest journey?
Yeah, I think the first step is being in awareness.
Okay.
awareness of where you are. I think we tend to do too much too fast already. That's why you need a rest. That's why you
Right.
have a rest deficit. So it's slow down and just, where are you today with rest? Just sit in acceptance a little bit there, and then move into action with, maybe starting with a meditation, like starting small. Like, we don't have to jump into the deep end of the pool. What were you going to say? Something
I
sparked.
do. I have a total question
Okay.
because I think there might be a step before awareness, right? So what are the things, I guess what I want, like, I want you to really break it down. What are the things that people might be saying that are indicating that they're tired, that they may not, other than I'm tired? What are the things that people might be saying?
Yeah, they're like, I don't even know how to have fun. Like, I don't
Mm,
know what to, when I say, what do you do for fun? I don't know what that is. I don't have a
right.
hobby. I just, I can't sleep. Uh, you know, all of those things. And so it's just pull back a little bit and look at, like, that's where again the awareness comes in. How long has this been for you? Where did these things start? Like, just investigate that a little bit before we just start with tools. Like, I don't know, I just feel like, to me, it starts with awareness. So, but if I'm, that's what I do when I work with clients. It's starting with where you're coming from now. Like, how are you arriving?
Yeah.
Sitting in acceptance of how you've been until you got to this point, right? And just in giving a little compassion to that. Here's the person who, was trained, or this is how the family did. Like, they didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Let's give a little breath of acceptance and awareness for the one who is waking up,
I
and then,
love that.
move
I love
move
that.
into action.
I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I want to I thought it was so wonderful what you said about the inner landscape because, and this is the question I always ask people about this card. Like Asasaya says, worship your inner goddess without apology.
Hmm.
And the questions that I ask around that are, what are the things that you do to, we tend her, I mean, she tends the earth, but I think she's modeling for us how to tend ourselves. And so, it's just, I think it's the same question. Like, what are, maybe on the other side, like, what are the things that you do to tend yourself? How are you worshiping your inner goddess without apology? And I think that's the piece, or that's one of the pieces that is really critical for us as Black women. Like, this is, I literally said the same thing some years ago when we were first developing this when I did the first goddess retreat. I was like, this is a reward, this is a requirement, this is not a reward. Literally the same thing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and I just, it's such a and everywhere around we have messages all the time telling us the exact opposite, telling
Hmm.
us to go, 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 hurry, 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 produce, 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 produce. And I think that you're like, just literally the way you were talking about the 7 layers and talking about being in Mexico, and it's just like, I think we all need to go join April in Mexico. Come
Yes.
and rest, come and rest, come, because when you're like, my first question, I was like, well, what are we gonna do,
Ah.
right? I'm like, oh wait,
Yeah, you caught, see, awareness. You caught it. I love it.
wait a minute. I think this is about being, not doing.
Yes.
Yeah, we're human beings.
You know what? It's so funny when you were just talking right now. Just, I got the image of, like when you think of a top athlete, like top performers, they got this dialed in. Yes, they work hard and they train hard, but they rest hard. How come
And
they can do
recover.
that?
Yeah.
We gotta be over here just, hashing it out all day and all night.
Yep.
No. Why they got to know the secret. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's I had a friend ask me that, and I thought it was so odd. Like, so what do I need to do? Like, how do I, what do I, it was almost like, how do I need to do? Like, no, you don't. What do I wear? You're not going anywhere where you need to dress up. Like, but that was the first approach.
Bathing suit.
Bathing suit and a sarong.
Shorts. We're
Yeah.
good. No, this is I think it's ironic for me because I really struggle with rest. And in October, I met with some health challenges that I knew that something was going on, but I thought it was something else, and then it turned out to be another, like, something I completely didn't expect to be going on.
Mhm.
And my first, I mean, the doctor I was working with was like, you need to go to sleep.
Okay.
And literally on my vision board right now, the first thing at the top says, "Girl, go to bed."
Go to
It's
bed. What?
literally the first thing it says. And I started going to bed at 8 o'clock every night. And it was the first time probably in 10 years that I slept for more than 4 hours in a row. And I
Oh,
started sleep. Yeah, my child's a terrible sleeper, so we all sleep badly. But I started for many, many weeks. I slept for 8 hours in a row every night. And, it took some doing, right? It took some, okay, well, you have to get things done. You've got to get things prepped. You have to just stop, like that. No one's going to die if that doesn't happen tonight, you know?
yeah.
And there was maybe like 3 weeks in, I was like, oh, it was like a drug. I was like, this is what it feels like to be rested, you know? And I can see already, I mean, so this is 5 months in, 6 months in, and I
Wow.
can see the backsliding. Like it's like, no, this is a habit. This is a practice you need to develop to get, I mean, going to bed had a lot of things. Like I stopped eating late at night, so my body got to actually rest while it was resting.
Yeah, yeah.
There were
You
less
still
calories, less cortisol, less all the things.
all like
And it
you
was,
I'm just looking at all the things you had to do to
oh,
get
it was,
yeah.
even now I'm trying to talk to myself because it started creeping up like 8, 8:30, 9. Now we're at 10, sometimes 11. And I'm like, no, 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 that's just go to bed at 9. Like it's just, but I
Mm,
mean, because I had this health challenge, it was like, oh, you have to do this right now. And that was the thing that allowed a lot of other changes without much effort on my part because I was asleep. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't actively doing other things and working up an appetite or walking through the kitchen or whatever the things were.
right.
And so it's just, I know, I mean, I feel when people say sleep or rest, like these words, they have a feeling of ease and of like easy
Mm,
and accessible and I want to say almost luxury. And I find them very difficult. Right.
ah,
And I don't think I'm the only one who finds sleep and rest difficult. And so I'm like super excited that there are people like you in the world who are out here. I mean, because everybody talks about self-care, and I'm like, that's fine.
yeah.
Fine. Self-care, yes, but I think we actually need to be like radically loving on ourselves.
Yeah.
You
Just as
know?
you're talking, my first thought was, oh my gosh, the compassion for like, listening to all the things that resulted from that change. And I'm like, even if you went to bed at 9, you're doing amazing, right?
It was hard.
I
I
know
just
it's
can't believe
hard.
how hard it was. Sorry, I'm totally throwing a tantrum about it. But I'm like, no, you know what? You just go to, because the thing that I was scrolling through in the middle of the night didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna die if I don't look at Instagram in the middle of the night. No one is going to die if I don't look at Instagram.
Yeah. So we dig into that. We dig into that like during the retreat. What is that that's driving that,
Yeah,
those behaviors? And then one of the things we do at the retreat, sorry, my dog is going crazy.
no worries.
We we do sleep rituals. So that's the whole point. Like I want you to leave knowing how to get to sleep on your own, right? Like
Yeah.
and in a reasonable time. And there's just some things that you can do that might help and make it easier. I don't know. I love sleep. Even when I was burned out, even when I was at my literal wits end, I think the only thing that saved me was sleep.
With sleep.
Was sleep. So I can't even imagine like 4 hours. I can't even.
Oh no, it was rough. I mean, I slept more than 4 hours, just not in a row.
Oh.
Just not in a row. Yeah, and it was brutal. It was for a long time. It was really bad.
Mm.
But you also get. That's what I'm saying. When I hit those 3 weeks of 8 hours, at least 8 hours a night, I was like, it was like getting off of a roller coaster. That's how good it felt. That's how like jazzed up I woke up like, oh, this is what you're supposed to feel like.
Yes.
And then immediately stayed up all night. But whatever. This is I just think I don't know. I'm really happy to be talking to you. I'm really happy that you're doing this work in the world. And I think it's very important that we can support one another in this effort because I actually don't think it's easy. Like I really had to rearrange my life in order to go to bed early.
Yes.
Consistently.
Yeah.
And that meant my kid had to go to bed early.
Yeah.
It was like husband could do what he wanted, but the kid had to go to bed and I had to go to bed. And it's everything was different. I
Yeah.
could really see the differences. And in the health challenge where we were like, if this is 0 to 10 and 10 is absolutely horrible, if we were at a 9, I bought it down to a 3 in 3 months.
Wow. In three
You know?
months.
Yeah, no, quick. It was like we moved because I was serious. I wasn't messing around.
Wow.
Um,
You sit in that. You just
yeah.
sit in that for a second. Like that's huge. And I
It was a big deal.
mhm,
And
mhm.
it was, I mean, there were other things I was also doing, but it was sleep. I swear to you, that was the main thing was sleep and
Yeah,
rest, not just sleeping, but rest,
yes, absolutely.
rest.
Absolutely. It's
So
so funny. Yeah.
I am on your bandwagon.
Okay.
There are some questions. I can see that there's
Oh,
questions, but I can't see the questions.
oh no. Okay.
Um,
I can always go back in and
Let
answer
me
them too.
see. Okay, it says set up live video, but we are live. I can see that we're live,
Hmm.
and there's people watching. But I don't see the problem. I don't see the questions on my phone, but I can see that people have. I can see in the notifications that people have written questions.
Okay. I can
Okay,
go back.
go
I'm
back.
happy to go back in and
Okay,
answer any
answer.
questions. And did you already put the link? I can also put the link if they want the workbook. Which actually, oh my God, you know what? Let me talk about that for a second. It does have sleep rituals in it.
Okay,
I do 2 pages of sleep rituals, by the way. So for people who really do need to want to start to retrain their bodies for rest, there's already a whole section on that.
that's amazing. It sounds like something I need to read. See, this thing is saying it's not live, but I can see it on the phone. I can see that we're live. So anyway, I'm gonna stop messing with it. Yes, I invite you to go back and just,
Okay.
you know, answer any questions that there are. I'm sorry, folks, that we can't see the questions right now. We will. I will also go back in. And so April, we've been on the phone for about the phone the this call for about 45 minutes. So I feel like this is a good place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Where I'm super excited about your retreat. I'm really like what's really warming my heart is that you're out here doing this work and that people are going to really experience changed lives because of it. I'm also really excited to know this statistic about hugs that you need 4 to survive, 8 to maintain, and 12 to thrive.
Yes.
Daily hugs, daily hugs. That's killer. It also makes me, my kid does this thing at night. Oh, I need a hug. Oh, I need a hug. I'm like, no, you need to go to bed. So go, I
No,
need a hug. I'm like, okay, fine. You can
they're
have a hug.
tuning in. They
Because I
need
need you to thrive. You can have the hug. I need you to thrive.
yes. Oh my goodness.
Um, and you said it was Sandra Dalton Smith who came up with the seven, what was her book?
So sacred rest.
Sacred
Yes.
Rest.
She kind
Okay.
of goes through 7 types of rest and it's
Okay.
beautifully done. I love the book. And like I said, I just adopted it and looked at how I could put it to my life as a high achiever. What are some of the ways that I can bring this out to other high achieving women? So
I
definitely.
love it. I love it. Well, I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for giving us an easy step to get started. For those of us who are just beginning this journey, thank you for laying out the process in your book that people can sign up for and have the ebook sent to them directly. And
Yes.
thank you for hosting this retreat that's coming up. And thank you for joining me in our discussion. Our discussion inspired by Asasaya today. There's just so many levels upon which. I think that I like how I want to say this. The Black Goddesses are the work that we're doing around the Black Goddesses is to really to reconnect us to lost histories. And I think there's so much wisdom in their existence and in their stories and in their wisdom as it pertains to self-care. So I'm thank you again for joining us today. It's 5:16 here. So I've got 3 hours and 34 minutes, 44 minutes before I have to go to bed.
That's right. Okay. And get your
I'm gonna do it.
and all the things, right?
I'm gonna go to bed by 9 o'clock tonight. That is my commitment to you, April. I am inspired.
I
I am
am
inspired.
I love it. I love it so much. And thank you so much for the beautiful work. You were a catalyst, honestly, for this retreat. It was
Oh,
through
hey.
Black Goddess Within that I started to really get into goddesses and understanding the power and like even just thinking about the elements and how this all plays. So I have to thank you for the inspiration for
Shay.
Goddess Unplugged. So
Oh,
yeah.
Shay. Thank you so much. That is
You.
exciting. All right. Well, I'm gonna stop the live. Thank you again. This is Dr. Giovanni Washington, and this was the April installment of Black Goddess Within. I mean, the Black Goddess Lives. And if you do not have your Black Goddess Within Oracle deck, you can find it at go.blackgoddesswithin.com. And we'll see you next time, next month. Okay, let's
Bye.
stop live stream. Stop recording.